Alright guys, we're going to be talking about some different symbols today. Symbols that you might be misinterpreting. Symbols that I might be able to clue you in on. There's a lot of misinformation out there, especially when it's information put forward by the religious institutions. The true gnosis is a bit deeper, so let's dig deeper. Alright, here is the Minoan snake goddess. An image of a serpent-bearing goddess figure found in the remains of a temple in Knossos, Crete. She is one of several such figurines on Earth. The name and purpose of the figure have never been deciphered, but she is associated with animals, mainly bees. And remember my last episode I did about bees and their importance in Notre Dame, and their deeper symbolism. But also snakes, because of the two snakes she's holding, obviously. Two snakes represent the Kundalini, the energy patterns of the body, one flowing up, one flowing down. She's also associated with the labyrinth of Crete, the layer of the Minotaur. The labyrinth is also a very important symbol. It's associated with Crete a lot, but there'll be a lot of Crete stuff in this video. The labyrinth is a winding maze-like path, often resembling a spiral. Labyrinths are found in many ancient cultures and almost always have spiritual significance. Nearly identical labyrinth patterns are found in Neolithic art, on Native American petroglyphs, and even ancient Vedic sites in India. Ancient Minoan labyrinths were associated with the cult of the mother goddess and were possibly used in initiation rituals. Labyrinths carried into medieval times, where they were often laid on the floor of cathedrals. They were used as a sort of miniature pilgrimage. Often these pilgrims traveled the path on their knees while praying continuously. Labyrinths have seen a kind of revival. They are common today both in churches and neo-pagan sanctuaries. It is estimated that there are now more than 1,500 labyrinths in churches in the U.S. alone. Labyrinths are not just passive pilgrimage and prayer, but they are representing something much deeper. You see, the labyrinth is the mystery of this world. It is this world. It is the maze that we're stuck in trying to get out of, trying to find the light in the darkness. Just like Icarus putting on wings that Daedalus made so that he could fly from the labyrinth. Flew too close to the sun, ended up back in the labyrinth again. This is an analogy for the process of reincarnation. Labyrinth also, the word labyrinth, it comes from the word that we get for labia. So it's the mystery of life. The reproductive process is also associated, as you can see, with the mother goddess. The mother goddess is Ishtar, Inanna, the ancient Sumerian goddess, but also a deeper goddess. Think about the secret cults of the Mediterranean found on Crete, where they have goddess worship. They have the eight-pointed star. They have the labyrinth, and then look at then you have sites like Malta as well. These are all cults based on Ishtar, and her star is eight-pointed. This is the cardinal directions. This is the solstices and equinoxes, but it's more than that because it's quartered as well. This eight-pointed star is always associated with the Mother Goddess. It's a lunar symbol. A lot of people think it's just a depiction of Venus, the planet, the way that it looks in the night sky. That's true, but also a lot of ancient temples were built with 8 walls. In ancient American mound art, we see the octagonic temple next to the circular temple. The octagonic temple, whether it's on top of Mount Hermon, where we see the Anunnaki or the Nephilim first appearing. You can look at the Israeli site, or in the Mound Builder Hills of Ohio, you see exactly the same temple formation, an octagonic temple right next to a circular temple. This represents the Star of Ishtar. This has always been associated with the Mother Goddess, and also with Mesopotamian religions of Sumer and Babylon. And these, of course, are just the remnants of a pre-Diluvian mystery religion that I believe is still being practiced by a lot of secret societies today. But let's move forward and take a closer look at Ishtar. So here we see a statue of the goddess Ishtar. She's pale white, like the moon, made of alabaster, and has the moon, the crescent, on her head, just like the apex bull has. But this is more than that. These are actually horns, and you see the horns being translated throughout many cultures. This is a further example of the labyrinth, the labris, or the double-headed axe. The double-headed ritual axe is found in ancient Minoan depictions of the mother goddess where the symbolism is related to the labyrinth. This is the axe that the Minotaur carries. The word labris is Minoan in origin and is from the same root as the Latin labus, or lips. Similar symbols appear in Norse, African, and Greek religious objects, where it is most often a feminine symbol, most likely lunar in origin. Use of labris has been documented on medieval charms used to attract women. Today it is often used as a sign of identity and solidarity among lesbians. This symbol represents the ovaries, the womb, the vagina. It is if you look at it closely, it is two crescents. It is phases of the moon. And it being a double-headed axe, cutting both ways, represents a combination of both the high priestess type feminine goddess and the empress type feminine goddess figure. A completed female ready to reproduce. So that's where we get labyrinth. Alright, here we have the poison cup, or the cup of St. John. The poison cup is an emblem of the Catholic St. John the Evangelist. The symbol stems from the popular miracle story whereby, at John's blessing, the poison in a cup of wine intended for his consumption is transformed into a serpent. Interestingly, the image of a serpent rising from a cup is described in a vision of Isis in the golden, it's supposed to be asp, of Epilusius. In her left hand was a golden cup, from the top of whose slender handle rose an asp, towering with head erect and its throat distended on both sides. The poison cup, the cup with a serpent in it, this is the chalice of abominations that the whore of Babylon has while she's riding on the beast in the book of Revelations. This is the poison brought into being, brought into reality in the form of the snake. This snake symbolism as a form for poison has been used forever. Cleopatra used an asp to kill herself, supposedly, as well. Although a lot of people think that's just allegorical for the fact that she drank poison. The black asp has always been a symbol of poison. But remember, this is from a vision of Isis. It's a good thing and a bad thing. It's identified itself as what it is. And it only strikes you if you drink from it or choose to drink from it. But the symbol, the serpent in a chalice, is often linked to the goddess. Here we have the crucified serpent, or the alchemical cross. The gruesome symbol of a crucified serpent is an old alchemical drawing representing the fixing of the volatile, or making the elixir of mercury, a legendary curative, by removing the volatile or poisonous element. The picture is derived from the biblical story of Moses, who erected a brazen snake as a charm against plague. Yeah, this is the serpent that Moses raised up in the desert. This is the kundalini that goes up the spine. This is the type of healing that was engaged in when manna was being consumed. This is the serpent from the Garden of Eden, the wise serpent. The reason the serpent is considered wise is because the serpent has 3 eyes. It has its pineal gland, its light-sensitive organ on its head as a visible 3rd eye. And it's close to the earth, keeping its body close to the earth at all times. That's why the serpent is considered wise. Also, because whenever it goes into its berration phase, its hibernation, it is completely awake. It stays awake the entire winter. Whereas a bear would sleep, the serpent is always awake. And it can shed its skin, as we do in reincarnation. This crucified serpent is the wise Christ that was raised up on the cross. Just as Judas was the lower kundalini that was lowered in the Garden of Olives, in the potter's field. Alright, here we have the Orphic egg. You might be familiar with the Orphic egg symbol from I Pet Goat. This was the black serpent that was wrapping around the egg right before you see the television head guy. The Orphic egg is usually represented as an egg surrounded by a cold serpent. This egg symbolizes the belief in the Greek Orphic religion that the universe originated from within a silver egg. The first emanation from this egg, described in ancient hymn, was Phanes Dionysus, the personification of light. Ineffable, hidden, brilliant scion, whose motion is whirring. You scattered the dark mist that lay before your eyes, and flapping your wings, you whirled about, and through this world you brought pure light. The image below depicts Phanes. This is the celestial egg, the cosmic egg, the egg that you see at the very end of the tarot deck in the Cosmos card or the World card. This is the egg of the enlightened one. This is the 40 days in the desert. Notice how it is completely surrounded by a spiraling snake. If you were to lay this coiled serpent out, it would look like a labyrinth. It would look like a spiral. This represents the cosmic energy that is both never-ending and never-beginning, just as a spiral. It is infinitely small and infinitely large. We have the subatomic and we have the multiverse. We have the fractal giving birth to the entire universe. And this energetic state of being is represented by the coiled snake taking care of the Orphic egg. Snake, once again, associated with the goddess. This is the egg that tops the pillar. The egg on top of the pillar. The pillars of Atlantis. The pillars of remembrance. This is also the pineal gland. Alright, here we have a symbol that's really, really popular, especially amongst priestesses. It's called the Girdle of Isis, or the Tet. Resembling an ankh with bent arms, the Tet, or Girdle of Isis, is found mainly in Egyptian funeral murals. It most likely represents the flow of menstrual blood from the womb of the goddess and its magical properties. The garments of Egyptian gods are frequently depicted with belts in such a configuration. The power of the Tet is described in a spell on a papyrus of Ani. The blood of Isis, the spells of Isis, the magical words of Isis shall keep this shining one strong, and shall protect him from whomsoever would harm him. Do to him such things as he abomineth. The knot resembles an ancient charm for menstrual cramps, which involved insertion of a knotted cloth to staunch bleeding, like a tampon. The Tet is also known as the buckle of Isis. An image of Mary Magdalene wearing a similar girdle, possibly hinting at some special symbolism. That picture got cut off. But Mary Magdalene and Isis are heavily tied together. You have the black Isis, the black Kali, the black Madonna. The black Madonna is Mary Magdalene. It is also Sarah, the daughter of Mary Magdalene, whenever she came to France. This is very, very similar to the labyrinth symbol that we discussed earlier. Here's that picture of Mary Magdalene, so you can see it. Notice her holding the alabaster jar there. The alabaster jar is a powerful symbol. Just like we saw the goddess Isis carved out of a piece of alabaster earlier, the alabaster jar that Mary Magdalene took with her to France after Christ passed away is depicted here right next to the symbol of the Tet. And the Tet, the knot of Isis, is linked to the knot of Vijnana right here. You can see it's basically exactly the same thing, but this is much, much earlier from ancient Sumeria, from the Babylonian tradition. This symbol is actually the ancestor of the crozier, a staff carried by Catholic bishops today. So, a symbol of the divine goddess. Just like you see popes wearing the Orphic egg on top of their heads in the old papal hats, which is a non-Christian pagan symbol. You see them also carrying the staff, which marks their power is derived from the divine feminine. Here we see the Masonic beehive emblem. You see this on a lot of tracing boards. Observances of the annual hibernation of the hives also resulted in the belief that the bees died and were reborn annually, and this, along with their coloring, made the natural solar symbol, and later an emblem of Christ and the Christian believers, the reincarnation. You can see the goddess Demeter pictured below. People believe that her priestesses actually were reincarnated as bees. She's flanked by two sphinxes. She has horns on her head, just like Ishtar does, in the form of the moon. She is a bee goddess, a queen, a leader of a matriarchy. Just like we saw the beehive symbolism in the Notre Dame video and on the Masonic tracing boards, we see the symbolism in ancient Minoan as well. On the island of Crete, their two biggest exports whenever they were at the height of their civilization were poppy derived opium products, opium. They grew a whole bunch of flowered poppies, and the way that they managed to make sure all these flowers got pollinated is that they had a whole bunch of beehives. So on the island of Crete, you see bees everywhere, and people hive the bees. This is where we see the first beekeepers. Ancient Crete. They put horns on top of all their beehives. The horn was placed on top of the beehives to keep the bees safe. Here we see that humanity has always had a close relationship with bees, whose honey has been a food staple since before the dawn of civilization. As a symbol, the bee's lifestyle mimics that of human social order, a cooperative, productive social hierarchy. In fact, beekeeping is one of the earliest markers of civilized society. Bees provided many of the necessities of advancement, provided not only food in the form of honey, but wax for metalworking, which they would use for their molds, cosmetics, and also medicines, as well as the ever important pollination of fruit trees and other food crops, and flowers, like the poppy plant, for growing a whole bunch of poppies in the form of opium. They would sell this opium to Egypt, by the way. This is why Crete was so wealthy. They were the first drug dealers. Here we see the hieroglyphic bee symbolizing the kingdom of Lower Egypt, which is actually to the north, because it had so much dealings with the Minoan beekeepers. The cultivation of honey was a sacred charge often imbued with ritual symbolism and associated with the mother goddess, whose nurturing protection of mankind was symbolized by the abundance of bees, honey provided to bee society under the reign of the queen bee. Sorry, I threw one too many bees in there, but there's a bunch of bees in a hive. So we see that this connection once again to the goddess, once again to society and a social hierarchy. This is why you see the beehive sound at the beginning of 2001 Space Odyssey, right after the monkeys figure out that the big black monolith, the big black cube, Alice, is communicating with them. You see the beehive symbolism there, the buzzing, which represents them forming into a society as opposed to just a tribe. Bees being a provider of order and work, that's a key symbol. A lot of royalty will have bee brooches for this specific reason, especially queens. Queens will always have a little bee brooch. Or if you see a painting of a queen, it will have a bee in it. This is very French, Spanish, English tradition. But it comes all the way back to ancient Sumeria and I believe Atlantis, which I think Crete was a colony of Atlantis. Alright, here we see the Minoan bee goddess, a figure of the Minoan goddess in the shape of a bee, one of the several portrayals found in art and religious artifacts in ancient Minoan culture. These artifacts are assumed to be related to the local mother goddess cult, but very little is known about Minoan religion. Or a representation of the Melissa, quote-unquote, bees, the priestesses of the cult. And remember, I said that the priestesses of Ishtar would sometimes be reborn also as bees, and bees are a symbol of reincarnation. But this once again shows the importance of bees to the Minoan civilization. The reason they didn't have any walls, the reason they didn't have any fortifications or military, is because they survived off of getting everyone in the Mediterranean hooked on opium. And they provided the best, most abundant opium. And society had not yet figured out to rob the drug dealer. But this Minoan bee goddess is a symbol you see found throughout a lot of artifacts and on Crete today. Alright, here we have the crucified Bacchus. This unusual amulet dates to the 3rd century AD. It is intended as a magical charm and depicts a crucified figure of the wine god Bacchus, or Dionysus. Above the figure we see a crescent moon and 7 stars, the meaning of which is unknown. It is unusual as it depicts a crucified figure other than Christ at a time where similar images of Jesus were rare. This crucified Bacchus has the moon above him, just as Ishtar has above her. The 7 stars represent the 7 hills, represent the 7 stars, the Pleiades, the 7 sisters, the 7 hills of Rome, the 7 hills of Capitol Hill, the Subaru, the Pleiades, once again tied to the goddess. This crucified Bacchus figure is just to show you that the man being lifted up onto a cross is not something unique to Christianity at all, as a powerful religious symbol. The hanged man was around far, far longer. Realize that the symbol that he's actually being crucified on is shaped like an anchor. This is the symbol for the below, the symbol for Saturn. It is, if you look closely, it's actually the symbol for Saturn, duplicated on both sides. I use the symbol quite a bit, but you'll see the symbol again. Note once more the moon above Bacchus, just like above Ishtar. This can be seen as horns, or the boat of Isis. Just as we saw a crucified Bacchus on an anchor shape, we see the anchor cross, the crux dissimulata. The anchor cross is an early convert Christian symbol. It's a symbol for Pisces, obviously. It's called the ictus, or Jesus fish. The symbolism of this predates Christianity. It's a much earlier pagan symbol. And they speculate that the anchor represents the crescent moon, or Mary's symbol, surmounted by the cross of the Son, Christ. In other words, duality, male and female come together. This actually represents a change of positions, a moving of energies from one state to another. This is the coming of the age of Pisces. But once again, crucified on the cross, just like Bacchus and just like the snake that we saw on the alchemical cross. Alright, here we have a very important symbol called the Keys of St. Peter. The image at the right represents the Keys of St. Peter, an emblem of the Catholic Church, which represents the divine authority invested in the Apostle Peter before the death of Christ. As such, they are emblems of papal authority in the Catholic Church, a symbol that appears frequently in Christian art and in the arms of popes. The cross keys were formerly an emblem of the Roman god Janus, the three-faced Janus, or two-faced Janus. The Mithraic Zervan, both gods of time and keepers of doorways and removers of obstacles. It is this symbolism that led to the folk legend of Peter as the bureaucratic keeper of the pearly gates of heaven. This is from the Bible verse that Jesus said, "I will give to you the keys of heaven and of death." This represents the keys to heaven and hell, or enlightenment and the process of reincarnation. Basically, it means you've conquered. It is in the form of an X, a cross of St. Andrew, the X that is over the cross to form the 8-pointed star of Vijnana. This represents past and future. This represents life and death. This represents both dualities. This is a symbol that we'll see in a lot of gods that predate, of course, the Catholic Church. Zervan, the Mithridatic Zervan, is probably the most important. He has a head of a lion, and a lot of times has a body of a snake, or a body that is coiled up with a snake. A lot of times Zervan, who is actually the Persian father of Ahura Mazda and Angramanyu, the creator god. This is Yaldabaoth. You'll see this symbol on statues of Yaldabaoth, who people say is the demiurge and the devil. That's not true. This is God, the creator of this universe, the physical manifestation. But there is a God higher that is not just the creator of the universe. Alright, just to re-emphasize a point, Zurvanism is an extinct branch of Zoroastrianism, the Persian religion of the sacred flame, which the divinity Zurvan is a first principle, primordial creator deity who engendered equal but opposite twins, Ahura Mazda, the positive, and Angra Mainyu, the negative. Zurvanism is also known as Zurvanite Zoroastrianism and may be contrasted with Mazdaism. So we see right here that Zurvan, which I said was a lot of times associated with Yaldabaoth, as being the non-polarity, the non-dual, the ineffable first, the Yaldabaoth, the spirit that created flesh. In Zurvanism, Zurvan was perceived as the god of the infinite time and space, and was the one or alone. Zurvan was portrayed as a transcendental neutral god without passion, and one for whom there was no distinction between good or evil. The name Zurvan is a normalized rendition of the word, which in Middle Persian appears either as Zurvan, blah 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 blah. The Middle Persian name derives from the Avestan Zurvan, which means time, and it's grammatically without gender because, once again, it is non-dual. Alright, here we have a couple different symbols, statues. Right there you can see the keys of time and space, the keys of St. Peter. Right here we have the Cross of Lorraine. Cross of Lorraine consists of one vertical and two evenly spaced horizontal bars. It is a heraldistic cross used by the Dukes of Lorraine. This cross is related to the Crusaders' cross and the standard of Joan of Arc. The Lorraine cross was carried by Crusaders on the carried to the Crusades by the original Knights Templars. This is a symbol of the end of duality, the as above and the so below, the polarities coming into alignment. This is a symbol of a stargate, the double cross. This is why you see the double cross above the Leviathan's cross. Alright, the below portion of the Cross of Lorraine would be the reversed cross, the upside down cross, or the cross of St. Peter. This has often been viewed as an emblem of Satanism, although technically it's actually a symbol of the martyred St. Peter, who refused to be crucified in the same manner as Christ, and preferred to be hung upside down instead, claiming that he came out of the world upside down, and he will be born into the next world upside down as well. A lot of people use this still as a satanic symbol, but the inverted cross is really an esoteric symbol of reversal, related to the 12th key of the tarot, the Hanged Man, the trump card, from the major arcana. Once again, the so below, the Saturn, the bottom of the anchor, the bottom of the figure 8, the moon. Here we see a symbol called, well, I don't know if you guys have even really noticed it before, but it's pretty common. It's called the Globus Crucis, or the Globus Cruciger, or the Cross Triumphant, or the Globe and Cross. It's an emblem adopted by early Christian rulers to emphasize the dominance of the religion over the globe, over the world. The symbol combines a globe, an early Roman symbol of divine authority, with a cross. During the Renaissance period, it became common to include the emblem in portraits of Christ as a compassionate Salvator Mundi, or world savior. The emblem is still an important part of coronation ceremonies in Christian monarchies, like in England. The globus cruciger is sometimes used as an astronomical symbol for Earth. You always see the cross and the circle as a symbol for Earth, or the cross of the zodiac, or the four seasons, the four cardinal directions, the four faces of the seraphim angels, the four aspects of the Lamasu. These are the four, the cosmic principle of four. It's the positive, as well as the negative, combining solstices, equinoxes, polarities, brought into completion with the circle. Here we have a couple different pictures of globus. Yeah, it's pretty common. And I'm sure you guys have seen George Bush and other people flash this. Everyone says it's devil horns, right? Devil horns. It's so bad. Well, what is it really? The mano cornuto, or horned hand. In Italian, the gesture is commonly depicted on charms against the evil eye. It is unclear whether the gesture originated as an image of horns or as a poking out of the eyes gesture against the malachio, or evil eye. But ancient lunar goddess charms depicting animal horns, just like the crescent moon, just like you see on top of Isis, were used for similar protective purposes and are probably related to the gesture. The use of the horns as a symbol of satanic belief is recent and has evolved from the use of heavy metal musicians and fans. The horn hand gesture is also used occasionally by Wiccans to symbol the horn god, or the horns of the moon goddess, depending on tradition. So these are the horns of Jnana. These are the horns that are placed atop the beehives. These are the horns of protection. The reason he's doing that is because he feels the evil eye, George Bush that is, he feels the evil eye of the media or the crowd watching him, and he's doing this as a form of protection. This is a form of sorcery that he is conducting, quite literally. But once again, associated with the moon goddess, Ishtar, and Yana, the horned hands. This is not an evil symbol. This is not people showing that they are satanic. This is a symbol that is exactly the same symbol as the Hamza. It's protection against the evil eye. The eye of fascination. See, the word fascinate actually comes from a phallic charm, a talisman of a penis called a fascinum, from the Latin verb fascinare, to cast a spell. The origin of the English word fascinate. This is a protection against the evil eye as well as a horned hand, the image of a penis. This goes far back. The phallic charms were often objects of personal adornment, such as pendants and finger rings, but also appeared on stone carvings on buildings, mosaics, and wind chimes. Examples of stone phallic carvings, such as at Leptis Magna, depict a disembodied phallus attacking an evil eye by ejaculating towards it. That's right, the phallus, the fascinum, is where we get the word fascinate, or to cast a spell. Yeah, so this defensive spell, this penis-shaped talisman, would be worn in the same exact manner as the horned hand or the Hamza. So whenever you have something that fascinates you, it literally casts a spell over you. It makes you entranced by it. It is a kind of sorcery. from the Greek sorcerer, Fascinate. So whenever Joe Rogan says, "Oh, that's fascinating," that's casting a spell on you. A fascinum, an evil spell, witchcraft, a penis, usually that of a human, an artificial phallus, a dildo, or an amulet worn around the neck of a witch or a practitioner of magic as a preventative against negative magic. Also, number 6, a kind of seashell. Now, why is that? A seashell? Penis, phallus, spell against the evil eye, a protective amulet, I can understand, but why a seashell? Well, some seashells are shaped like penises, and they can stab out evil eyes just like dicks can. Here's an emblem of the seashell-shaped pendant that you would see used as a fascinum. Many of our Italian relatives believe in superstitions. One of the most popular superstitions is a malocchio, or the evil eye. It's a look that one person gives to another if they are jealous or envious. According to Italian folklore, those giving the malocchio can cause harm to someone else. Legend says it's just another way of putting a curse on others that can cause physical pain, such as head or stomach aches, or even cause misfortune. So this seashell-shaped fascinum, or phallus, would be worn, once again, looking almost exactly like a horn, to gouge out the evil eye. This is why you would see goddesses and gods with horned headdresses, to protect them from the evil eye from multiple dimensions, different layers of the spiritual world. This is why you saw the horns above the buildings in Crete, above the beehives, as a protection against those who want to do you harm. And that's why you see George Bush doing it right next to the Queen, to protect himself against that evil reptilian bitch. This is a symbol that's almost exactly like the Hebrew Hamza, protecting against the evil eye. This symbol is a type of Aaronic blessing from Moses' brother Aaron. It forms a V shape in the form of the letter Shin in Hebrew, which symbolizes the light of Shekinah, or the presence of God. It's a blessing taken from the book of Numbers. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. Which is where live long and prosper comes from. Since Leonard Nimoy did this as Spock, Leonard Nimoy being Jewish. Live long and prosper, Barat Kahanim, or priestly blessing. Here we see the mano fico, or fig gesture. It's an obscene gesture that you can make with your hand as a guard against the evil eye, once again. The thumb and fist gesture is an ancient representation of sexual union. The name is from the Italian word for the female vulva, fica, meaning fig. The fig is associated with female reproduction once again. It's actually where we get the word fuck from. Fucka, fica, fig. That gesture means fuck. And the fruit was sacred to Bacchus. So once again, we see that connection with the goddess figure and Dionysus, the twice born. It's actually a symbol that's supposed to distract evil, even demons, because they're supposed to be repelled by sex as well, according to the Symbol Dictionary. Well, this is a little deep dive into symbolism, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and please like, subscribe, and if you want to, please donate, because I am poor, and I could really use the money. Thanks, guys.